I told my sister I couldn't watch her kids that weekend. She sent them in a taxi to my place anyway without telling me, so I took them away. And then 3 days later I destroyed her life. The cab was already halfway down the street by the time I opened my front door. I didn't understand what I was looking at first. I just saw 3 small figures standing on my porch with backpacks, a shopping bag and wide, expectant eyes. It took me a full second to register that they were Ashley's kids. No parent. No explanation. No warning. Just the oldest handing me a folded note like this was something normal. Inside, in her rushed handwriting, were 10 words. Hope this is okay. Emergency. Back Sunday. Love you. That was it. 10 words that detonated everything Derek and I had spent months trying to rebuild. We were supposed to be in Belize by sunrise. Our anniversary trip was something we clung to through every late shift, every argument, every financial setback. We needed it more than I could explain. Ashley knew that. She knew every detail. I had told her repeatedly that I couldn't help with the kids that weekend. I didn't hint it. I didn't mumble it. I said it clearly. And she nodded like she understood. Instead, she loaded her children into a taxi and sent them across the city like a surprise delivery. I stepped back into the house with them trailing behind me, and all I saw was Derek standing at the bottom of the stairs with the boarding passes still open on his phone. He didn't yell. He didn't sigh. He didn't even look angry. He just walked back up the stairs and closed the bedroom door. And that silence hit harder than anything he could have said. I called Ashley. Straight to voicemail. I texted her. Where are you? Nothing. I kept waiting for a follow-up message. Some explanation. Some emergency that justified all this. But time kept passing and the only thing I got were airline reminders about our upcoming flight mocking me. By the time I finished feeding the kids and putting them in the living room with cartoons, my whole body felt hot and shaky. I wasn't even sure if it was anger or exhaustion or both. I checked my email around midnight. The airline had already marked us as a no-show. The hotel confirmation showed no refund available. Derek still hadn't said a word to me. And I was sitting there with 3 children who weren't supposed to be with me at all. This wasn't a mistake. This was Ashley doing what she always did, choosing herself over her kids and expecting me to catch whatever she dropped. And this weekend she didn't drop something small. She dropped everything. But this time she dropped it straight into a fire. By Sunday night, when she still hadn't shown up and still hadn't contacted me, something in me finally cracked in a way it couldn't be glued back together. I wasn't covering for her anymore. I wasn't smoothing things over. I wasn't making excuses for her choices. I opened my laptop, pulled together every instance I could remember. The late-night handoffs, the disappearances, the times she'd left them with me for entire days without checking in. Then I found the number for the one place that wouldn't ignore it. I didn't hesitate, not even for a second. And once that call was made, there was no going back. Monday morning, I woke up to the baby crying and Derek already gone. He didn't say anything before he left, didn't leave a note. He'd barely spoken 2 words to me since the kids showed up. Ashley still hadn't made contact. No texts, no calls, no surprise knock at the door pretending it was all a misunderstanding. Nothing. I kept checking the Ring camera to see if she'd even driven by. I was half convinced she'd show up hungover with some excuse. Maybe she lost her phone, or things got complicated. That's her language. Vague, slippery, never fully committing to the lie. But by noon I realized she wasn't coming anytime soon. So I packed up the kids, threw some snacks and diapers into a tote and drove. Not to her apartment. Not to a relative. Somewhere she wouldn't expect. A small town about 90 minutes away where our cousin Tara lives. Tara is one of the few people in our family who actually grew up and learned how to hold down a job, raise kids, and act like a functioning adult. She and Ashley had a falling out years ago and I knew Ashley wouldn't dare show her face there. Tara didn't ask questions when I showed up. She just looked at me, looked at the kids and nodded. I told her everything. She wasn't shocked. If anything, she was surprised I hadn't snapped sooner. We stayed 2 nights. I needed space. From the house, from the guilt, from the quiet, seething resentment sitting between Derek and me like a 4th person in our marriage. While the kids played with Tara's boys in the backyard, I sat at the kitchen table drafting a timeline. Every time Ashley had dropped the kids off without warning. Every time she'd left them overnight. Every excuse she'd given to disappear for me time. The pattern was clear. She wasn't struggling. She wasn't overwhelmed. She was absent. And I realized something else. If I just handed the kids back to her, if I just waited for her to finally text, "Hey, thanks again," like nothing had happened, they'd keep living like this. They'd keep being passed around like baggage. They'd keep wondering when mom would be back. They'd keep thinking this was normal. And I couldn't do that. So I made one more call. This time to a woman I met once at a volunteer event. She worked at CPS. I didn't give her my name at first. I just laid it all out. Described the situation. She asked questions. I answered. Then I gave her my sister's name. She said what I already knew. This wasn't going to go away quietly. That night, while the kids slept in sleeping bags on terrace floor, I got a message. From Ashley. One single sentence. "Where are my kids?" That was the first time she even acknowledged they were gone. Not thank you, not I'm sorry, not even are they okay. And with that message, something finally clicked in me. She didn't want her kids back because she missed them. She wanted them back because she realized something was happening that she couldn't control. And for the first time in years, I had the upper hand. I didn't reply to her message right away. I wanted her to sit in the silence. By the time she texted, "Ellie, seriously, where are they?" she'd followed it with 6 missed calls and a wall of voice messages. I didn't listen to a single one. She didn't deserve a quick answer. Not after disappearing for 4 days. Not after turning off her phone while I scrambled to feed, bathe, and comfort 3 confused little kids who kept asking, "When's mommy coming back?" Like I knew. The truth was, I didn't even know where she'd gone until someone tagged her in a photo. Instagram. Ashley was at some kind of beach resort. Lounge chair. Red bikini. Smiling like a woman who hadn't left her 3 children with 0 notice and faked an emergency. I stared at the screen for a solid minute. That was her emergency. A vacation. She'd lied to me, abandoned her kids, and gone off to sip margaritas in some overpriced cabana, probably with a guy who didn't even know she had 3 kids. I screenshotted everything. Sent it to the caseworker. She asked if I felt comfortable keeping the children a bit longer while they opened a case. I said yes. It moved faster than I thought it would. When we got back from Tara's on Wednesday, CPS scheduled a home visit for the following morning. They wanted to talk to the kids, see the conditions they were living in, and confirm what I'd told them. They asked questions I hadn't expected, about school attendance, who usually dropped them off or picked them up, if they'd ever been left alone, how often they stayed with me. Mason, the oldest, answered without hesitation. He told them about the time their mom left them alone for a whole night because she had to go do something. He told them about when he was told not to answer the door for anyone except me. He told them that staying with Aunt Ellie was his favorite because there was always food. I didn't cry, but I felt something crack open. And by the time the caseworker left, I knew what was coming. Ashley had no idea. She still thought she could show up, cry a little, and I'd cave like always. She didn't understand how far I was willing to go this time. Thursday night, I finally called her back. She picked up before the first ring finished. "Where the F*** are my kids?" I told her they were safe. That CPS had opened a case. That they'd been staying with me not because I wanted to, but because she hadn't given me a choice. She lost it. Screaming, swearing, saying I was dramatic, jealous, evil. She even accused me of kidnapping them. I let her finish. Then I said one sentence. "You shouldn't have sent them to my house in a taxi." Silence. Then she hung up. I didn't hear from her again for 2 days. And when I did, she was begging. Not for forgiveness. Not for the kids. She was begging me to tell the caseworker that I overreacted. But by then the investigation was in full swing. Interviews, school records, everything. And the kids? They didn't ask about her anymore. By the time the CPS investigator called me again, Ashley had already tried to spin her version. She told them she'd arranged everything with me in advance. Said I'd agreed to watch the kids for the weekend, then changed my mind while she was already out of state. She claimed she left them with me because she had no other option, and trusted her sister to help like always. She even sent them a copy of some fake text she'd written up in a chat with my name saved as Ellie Redheart, trying to make it look like I'd offered to take them. The investigator wasn't buying it. They already had screenshots of her real messages, or lack of them, and that photo from the beach. It had a tagged location. She had lied badly. At that point they were doing home visits at her apartment, speaking to neighbors, checking into the kids' school attendance. Her pattern wasn't subtle. The kids were late constantly. Sometimes didn't show at all. The school had even tried to reach her multiple times that year and got no response. And they were paying attention to what the kids said. That's what changed everything. Not my call. Not even the photos. It was Mason telling the worker in a quiet voice that sometimes he had to warm up hot dogs in the microwave for his siblings because mommy goes away sometimes and comes back when it's dark. It was Riley whispering that their babysitter once fell asleep and she had to help change the baby's diaper. It was the baby pointing at me and saying, "Home." Ashley had always been messy, but this wasn't messy anymore. This was neglect. And it had been going on for a long time. The official decision came a few days later. They weren't sending the kids back to her. She didn't take it well. She showed up at my door 2 hours after the call. I hadn't even told her I knew yet. She must have gotten the message from the caseworker and driven over without thinking. She banged on the door like she was trying to break it down. I didn't answer. She stood outside yelling for 10 minutes. I watched through the peephole while she paced, cried, cursed at the sky, and kicked over one of my flower pots. Then she left. Later that night she called again. This time she was quieter. Not calm but scared. She asked me to tell them she'd made a mistake. Just one. That she was overwhelmed. That she was trying. She begged me to say something, anything, to help her get her kids back. I didn't say no. I just hung up. Because she'd had years of chances. And this time she handed me the match and stood in the gasoline. After she begged me that night, she didn't call again. Not the next day, not the one after. Instead her mother, our mother, called. I hadn't told her anything. Ashley must have spun her version of the story and cried enough to get her on board. Mom opened the call with, "What the hell is wrong with you?" I didn't even bother explaining. I told her everything she needed to know was already in the case report. She said blood was blood. I said that didn't mean anything when kids were involved. Then I hung up. After that, I started getting calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Some blocked. A few voicemails from people I barely knew. One from Ashley's friend Jamie, trying to guilt me by saying Ashley was devastated, that she missed her babies. I didn't respond to any of them. Because where were all these people the night Ashley packed her kids into a cab and vanished to go sip mojitos on a beach? Where were they when Mason had to make microwave dinners for his siblings? I went to the CPS office the following week to give a formal statement. By then they'd already confirmed what I'd been saying all along. This wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment. It was a pattern. The investigator told me they were filing for temporary custody placement, and they asked if I was willing to take the kids in longer term. I didn't hesitate. They weren't strangers to me. They weren't a burden. They were kids who needed something they'd never really had. Stability. I talked to Derek that night. It wasn't easy. We were still bruised over the trip, still distant. But he listened. And to his credit, he didn't walk away from it. He just said, "If we're doing this, we do it right." So I called a lawyer. Not for me, for the kids. To make sure if Ashley tried anything, legally or emotionally, we were protected. And then something unexpected happened. Mason came into the room while I was on the phone and asked, "Can I stay here forever?" I couldn't answer. Not right then. Because what kind of 6-year-old asks that like it's a normal thing to wonder? What kind of home had he been living in that made this, with all the chaos and tension and recent drama, feel like forever was a better option? That night I sat in bed and stared at the ceiling for hours. Not angry. Not tired. Just stunned at how fast everything had unraveled. Ashley thought I'd cave. She thought, like every other time, I'd lose my temper for a second and then go back to pretending things were fine. But this time I didn't. I let the truth sit in front of everyone, raw and ugly and unfixable. And I still hadn't even done the worst part yet. Because there was one more thing I hadn't told her. I was filing for permanent guardianship. I filed the papers on a Thursday morning. Permanent guardianship. Legal custody. Full decision-making rights. The attorney warned me it wouldn't be a fast process. That Ashley might contest it, drag it out, try to prove she was turning things around. But based on the case report, the school records, the interviews, I had a strong case. And she had none. That same afternoon, Ashley showed up again. Not at my house this time, at the daycare. She must have figured out where CPS had temporarily placed the baby during the day while I worked. The staff called me right away. She showed up unannounced, demanding to see her daughter, yelling when they told her they couldn't release the child without CPS approval. He caused a scene. They had to call security. That incident made it into the file too. The following week, CPS conducted another welfare check. Not at my house but at Ashley's. The neighbor told them she hadn't been home more than 2 nights in a row since she got back from her emergency. Another neighbor admitted they'd heard the kids crying alone in the apartment weeks before the taxi stunt. It all piled up. And Ashley? She finally realized she wasn't getting the kids back with a few tears and a story about stress. So she tried to play nice. She texted me photos of the kids from when they were babies, as if nostalgia would erase the last few years. She left a voice message saying she was getting help now, talking to someone, figuring her life out. He said she missed me. Missed them. Missed us. But I knew better. I'd seen her miss her rent, her kids' school conferences, birthdays. She missed everything that mattered until someone else stepped in. She didn't miss being a mom. She missed being off the hook. The final hearing was short. Ashley didn't even show. Her attorney claimed she was in a mental health program and couldn't attend. The judge granted me full guardianship. I signed the papers. Walked out with the official letter. That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat in the quiet and finally let the whole thing hit me. My life had changed completely. In 6 weeks. But the strange part? It didn't feel like something had been taken from me. It felt like something had been returned. Peace. Derek came in and sat beside me. He didn't say anything for a while. Then he asked if I thought she'd ever try to come back. I told him maybe. Probably. But next time she wouldn't be coming back to get her kids. She'd be coming back to see that someone else had raised them better. And by then they wouldn't even call her mom anymore.